Another one who said, all right, now that we're done, I need to run up to the bank and get the cash. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And we will not take cash. So those transactions have got to be done either with a wire.
Welcome back to My Divorce Real Estate at the Gifford Group. So today we have back with us Mike Snyder with Texas American Title. We've already done a video kind of breaking down some of the costs and stuff like that, but now we're going to dive deep into kind of the closing day, right? So what can the sellers expect? What does the buyer kind of expect for this? And what is this transaction happening wise? We're going to break into those kind of topics. So let's first start off with so who signs first? Does it matter?
So typically the seller signs first.
Okay.
And when they arrive, they're probably in there. They don't have as many documents to sign. So they might be in there for, sometimes it's 15 or 20 minutes if they don't care. They're just sign.
Sign here. Right?
Sign here. But, probably 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then on the buyer side, especially if there's a loan, you have a whole lot more documents.
Okay, yeah.
To sign.
They're the people, they're signing their life away, literally.
They're literally signing, and you'll hear escrow officers say that. All right, let's go sign your life away with a little chuckle that makes everybody nervous.
Yeah, wait, what do you say?
But that's probably, you're probably going to be in there, give or take, probably be in there for about an hour.
Okay.
In terms of just purely
just signing.
And
it might be a little longer because you're making copies or whatever like that, right? But
yeah, so you'll come in, you'll sign, and then there's some copies that'll be done. You got to wait around. What can really make one of these go really long is when people read every word of every document, and that happens. And there are some professions that typically like to. The engineers do it a lot.
Yeah, I would say, engineers.
Lawyers do it a lot.
Yeah.
And
so you ask, hey, are you an attorney before I?
Yeah.
I might give you extra time, right?
We need to schedule some things.
We need to move it up earlier in the day.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that because there's a cutoff towards the end of the afternoon on
signing. Okay.
And when the Fed wiring can happen before it gets cut off till the next day. And if we know, hey man, this person's going to be here 2 hours, we don't want to schedule that at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
We probably want to schedule them in the morning if we can. But and every now and then, and we had it a few months ago, husband and wife, both lawyers.
Okay.
One read every single word.
Yeah. Passed
it on to the other one who read every single word, and then passed it and then signed it. So yeah, that's if you've got a lot of questions, it'll.
So typically, like say as the buyer comes in and they're going to be given a bunch of documents to be signing, and the escrow officer that's there is going to kind of explain and give an overview of those. They're not going to read it to them, but they're going to go, hey, this is kind of what this document's for, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they won't read it to you, but they'll say, hey, this is the document that does this.
Yeah.
This one says this. This one you'll sign means you're committing to this.
Yeah. This one's your IOU to the bank. This one's your, you're putting you on title. This one
says you're buying a house that's in a mud district.
Yeah. All the disclosures are getting
yes,
signed.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So that's, and we know that they're going to have some questions, and we answer all those questions for them, and get them going.
Yeah, and I think Mike's team at Texas American Title does a really good job of explaining those things so that the buyers and sellers feel comfortable as part of that transaction. So that's why we recommend them a lot. So if you are interested in contacting them, we'll put their information down below. So the second thing that we're going to try to cover here is so can I just bring in cash for the buyer? Can I show up with that? So the seller buyer transaction, how's that usually getting done?
All right, so. There are really two kinds of transactions. There's a transaction with a lender, so it's got a loan, and you're gonna your down payment, and you pay whoever you got your mortgage from, and then there are cash transactions. But they're not literally cash transactions. You cannot walk into the title company with $400,000.
If you want to give it to me, you can.
I've seen it. I think one time we did have somebody a few years ago walk in with cash, and another one who said, "All right, now that we're done, I need to run up to the bank and get the cash." That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And we will not take cash. So those transactions have got to be done either with a wire or up to a certain dollar amount with a cashier's check. But as I was thinking about this, we were working with an agent who had a buyer a couple years ago that said, hey, as we go through this process of buying, at some point when we make an offer, the selling side is going to want to see proof of funds.
Proof of funds, yeah.
To know that I will accept their offer because I know that they can pay for it. And so the guy puts stacks of cash like on the kitchen table and takes a selfie with him in this huge, it looked like a rap video or something. And he sent it to the agent. He said, here's my proof of funds.
Yeah.
Right? That's impressive, yes.
Yes, yeah.
No, that's not what we're talking about because, the lender wants to know that, and everybody wants to know that you've got the money.
And it's got to be in a bank account and getting wired over to the...
Yeah, so cash.
Yeah, because you guys really are acting as the middleman as part of this transaction, right? So the buyer and seller are coming together. The seller wants to sell their home, the buyer wants to buy the home, and you are making sure that the money is getting directly to the correct parties. And if they need to pay off the mortgage or if they need to pay, taxes, those are all getting kind of divvied up by you.
Correct. So again, another spot where we're the middleman is the money. So the buyer's not writing a check or wiring the money to the seller. Mm-hmm. They're giving it to us, and we're making sure that. So we're selling this house for $400,000. If you still owe $180,000 for your mortgage, we are going to send that $180,000 to the bank. Mm-hmm. We are going to take care of the closing costs and disperse the money where it's supposed to go. That way, if you owe the HOA, if there's a lien from, you put a $60,000 pool in and only paid $20,000.
Yeah.
And the pool builder put a lien on it. Well, we're going to pay him the balance that he owns out of your
proceeds.
Yeah. And then what's left over, then that's what we will send you.
Yeah, that's what the seller is actually netting after everyone else gets paid.
Yeah.
Then the buyer. So the buyer's buying the home with the money that they've agreed upon, and then the seller's netting whatever they're netting. So after everyone else gets paid first. So that's a good question. So bringing it back to, we're going to do a little bit of dive into the divorce part of it because I think it'd be a good transition here. Like when we have a client that we deal with, a lot of them that are selling the home that are divorcing.
Yep.
We'll sometimes say, hey, can you put these in different rooms?
Yeah, so, sometimes you have a divorce where it's amicable and people are like, all right, we're going to come together, we will sign together, and then we'll...
That's preferably, but...
Preferably. And at those, typically the worst thing we have to do is provide some Kleenex.
Yeah.
Because it's...
Maybe emotional.
It's a tough event. And we get that. We're not going to be celebrating that.
No. This is not a happy day you're selling.
This is not a happy day. Now there are, and I'll tell you a story about that. Now there are times where they don't want to see each other. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be in the same county, let alone the same room signing. And so that's when we're working with the agent, and the agent's working with us, and the communication is, hey, listen, she's going to come in. Can we get her in at 9?
Yeah. And
get him in after lunch. We want to put a barrier between them. They do not want to see each other. Yeah. And absolutely, they don't have to sign at the same time at the same table. We can schedule them at separate times, and then because it does happen like that sometimes. And same thing with buyers and sellers. Sometimes the transaction gets kind of contentious, and there are. I can't believe they asked me for another $200, or they asked me to fix that, and I can't believe they said no to fixing that. And they don't want to see each other. Yeah. And the agents will tell us, hey, look, you need to plan for like an hour or two between one coming and going and the other one arriving. But it's really cool when they do get along. Mm-hmm. And somebody's lived in this house, maybe they raised a family there, and a first-time home buyers are buying, and they're going to move in there, and they will sit in the lobby between closings for 15 or 20 minutes. Oh, we just loved the house. We always would do this. We would walk over here, and the buyers would say, oh, we love what you did with the landscaping, or we love what you did with the back patio. And they just talk and they exchange things, and we We kind of wait for them to finish, and those are fun.
Yeah.
It's really neat when they like each other. And oh, we hope you love our home. We hope you
Yeah.
enjoy it. And then they go to closing,
And that's
it.
usually the ideal transaction, right? And
Yes.
we've been on both of them. We've been on the ones that have been very contentious and separate. We've also been the ones that they're the buyer and seller come together, and it's great. And so it's like you just got to deal with having that professional approach either way, and just knowing what the situation is, having the communication with the agent, knowing what the situation is, but prior to is very important.
So I've told this story a lot. I always try to know what the situation is because I'd like to poke my head in. Hey, congratulations! How's it going, guys? Or
Yeah.
buyers, sellers, whoever it is. And there was one time I peek in, but I didn't find out ahead of time what the scenario was. So I peeked my head in. Escrow officer had gone out to make some copies or something. And I look in and there's a young couple with a toddler on mom's knee. And so I thought, oh, sweet, first time home buyers. This is my favorite. I love this. And so I popped my head in. I'm like, hey guys, what's going on today? And he looks at me and he goes, oh, we're just selling our house. And she looks at me and does kind of one of those things with her arm like, woohoo.
Good day.
And she goes, yay, divorce. And I thought, man, I really blew this one. I did not pay attention to this one. And I said something quickly like, well, your escrow officer will be right back. She's just making your copies. And man, I excused myself pretty quick. So when we know those things ahead of time, and I just didn't do my job on that one because I do like to try to find out ahead of time. But it happens occasionally. But man, we really try to work with our clients to say, everybody can be together or let's separate them.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely part of the thing that we try to make sure we communicate to the title company too, to make sure that they know the kind of situation that they're going to be dealing with, whether and if there's any problems with the buyers or the sellers, or if the sellers need to be in the separate rooms like that. So it's always great to know that we have someone looking out for us as well too. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to dive into is like, so now that they're both there, they sign the paperwork. Do I just get the keys now? Is that just like I just like walk out with my keys, or what do I have to do?
Well, that's kind of the assumption.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially if it's your first time buying. So here's what happens: the sellers will sign, then the buyers will come in and sign, and at that point we are taking care of the wire transfer. Let's say it's a wire transfer, and we need to make sure, because just because you sign doesn't mean it's your house yet.
Yeah.
That money needs to exchange hands, and we call it you're being funded or you're funded.
They're being funded.
And those are great words for the agents and everybody hears when the escrow officer comes out and says, "All right, guys, we're funded." that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
That means we're done.
Now that might take 20 minutes. It might take 2 hours, and there are some factors that go into that. Is it the end of the month? And is that bank handling a lot of transactions? Is it before a holiday weekend and they're handling a lot of transactions? Is it a busy time of year? Closing at the end of February is different than closing at the end of July. There's a lot more transactions. So once that money once the transaction has been funded, that's when the buyers get the keys, and that's a great event. And agents are taking pictures, and we do these celebratory closings with these confetti cannons, and confetti shoots everywhere. And
Mike's over there sweeping after every. No, it's always fun to celebrate the transaction when it's a fun transaction, right? So
when it's a fun transaction,
but either way, the work's got to get done. So whether it is a death, a divorce, or new first time home buyers, you're there to help facilitate that transaction for them and making sure everything gets taken care of properly. So
for sure, and on some of those others, death, divorce, we know that's a lot of emotions there. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of delicate conversations that have to be had, and we'll have those.
No shot back, clean up after those.
There's no confetti. There's no confetti.
Appreciate you coming over again, Mike, and being on the show with us today. So as always, we're here to bring you real life experience to all your real estate needs.